never looks back. She never looks back. Looks back. Demons are crawling back to your bed, and they're calling out your name. Demons are crawling back to your bed. Demons are crawling back to your bed, and they're calling out your name. Demons are crawling back to your
The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice.
You're listening to my friend Gary Anderson on Night Dreams Talk Radio, the best in paranormal radio.
Well, good evening, good morning, depending on your time zone, from the Pacific to the Atlantic. Well, this is Gary at Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark. Tonight, we're going to be talking to somebody who has been abducted from aliens, from UFOs. So tonight, you want to get yourself a nice cup of hot java or maybe some hot cocoa. Find a nice, easy chair. Maybe curl up next to a fire, and relax and take a listen to our show tonight. We'll be back with Dave right after this.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
Well, that is me most of the time. Tonight, you might want to, again, curl up on that easy chair. Man, have a pot of coffee going, because it's going to be an interesting show tonight. Get ready for a good ride in the paranormal. Well, Dave, are you there?
Yes, I am here, Gary.
Well, why don't you tell everybody who you are and a little bit of bio about yourself?
Okay, I'm Dave Emmons, and I live here in the Midwest, and I've had various jobs, but my college education was mostly in journalism, and that's why I've done some investigating, and I was actually able to get inside myself and ask myself questions to make sure that most of all these things that I went through through these ET and UFO events were true. And I keep asking myself questions over and over about this, but my background, of course, like I said, is in journalism, and I've had a few jobs in management, in personal. I own businesses, a small business, and it brought me to traveling when I retired. And I am retired, so I like doing a lot of traveling. Traveled out west, and that's where you're going to hear some of these stories that I have. I should say not stories, events, real events. And that's part of what I've been involved in this ever since I was 14 years old. In and out of my life, I've had things happen to me, and I'll try to get to some of those tonight. and hopefully I'll be able to cover them thoroughly enough and not miss out on anything. So that's my plan, Gary.
Well, Dave, how has this encounter, being abducted, affected your life?
Well, it's made me highly, I guess, interested in the subject of UFOs. I'm always looking up. I'm always looking for a UFO, or I'm always looking for strange people to approach me, in which I've had. It makes me hyper alert. It's just like being in combat. You're kind of hyper alert to different things. When you see a light in the sky, and you keep checking it out until you think, okay, that's an airplane. It's got flashing, avionic lights, so it's good. So it makes me always looking over my shoulders all the time, Gary. It's happened so many times in my life that I've seen strange people, and they say they walk amongst us, and I wish I could actually prove it, but nobody's been able to prove that. But I could say I've seen it. I've seen people that were strange that just didn't fit in. But it's something that has stuck into my mind and in my heart for all these years. And now, since I'm in my latter years, I want to come out and talk about most of this. I've been on radio before, on an AM station here in Illinois, and I've talked about my UFO experiences in short, because I had short segments. But I've done some. I've been to meetings, UFO meetings. I've done some talking there. I've demonstrated some things, showed some things to them, a couple of implants, in which I'll get to those too. And it's been, I guess, once you've been there, you've been under their spell, the magnetic energy spell, the dumbed down feeling. You know, you can feel it, and you know it's there. And you're always afraid that somewhere around the corner there's going to be this magnetic energy that wraps you and puts you in a mind fog, I guess you can say, where they make you feel that everything's okay. Don't grab your camera. Don't run. Don't throw ball bats at them. And it's kind of like giving you peace. But in other words, that they're actually controlling your mind with this magnetic energy. And the same goes, I guess, you're in Bigfoot territory, I guess, Gary, in Washington State. I have my ideas on that, too, in relation to UFOs and Bigfoot.
Well, I kind of have a funny feeling they're tied in together, because there's a lot of things, like a while back, I would say almost a year ago, I interviewed a park ranger that wrote a book about owls and UFOs. And what he did is he had an encounter. One day he was at home. He lived out where he didn't have to worry about closing his curtains. The driveway, faced his, bedroom window. And all of a sudden he saw like these grays walking towards, the house. And the next thing he knows, they come into his room, and that's all he remembered. But what was interesting about that is afterwards, he started seeing owls everywhere. He would go out, doing his job. He'd be out in the forest, and he'd see a whole bunch of owls. And everywhere he was going for a while, he was seeing a lot of owls. He didn't realize, being a ranger, maybe he did like owls, and maybe was obsessed with owls. A lot of people like certain birds, certain animals. And I said to him, did you ever think about maybe they put in your brain that every time from then on you saw a alien, you see owls in its place? And I kind of feel some way even about Bigfoot. It could be the same way that they have done enough abductions through the years that, when they scan your brain when you've been abducted, they go through and they find your fears, the things in the back of your mind you don't even think about. And naturally, Bigfoot would be one of them, would scare a lot of people.
Right. I've seen stories, documentaries. I've never seen a Bigfoot creature. My cousin did, just 5 miles north of me. He saw Bigfoot. And he when it comes to paranormal, he's about as shallow as a dry creek bed, so he come back scared to death about that. Matter of fact, it's the same cousin who I told you about earlier. But, Yeah, I feel that they're a dimensional creature because I heard that there's been some people who's taken shots at them and saw the fur fly and they just disappeared. I can almost believe that. It's a dimensional thing, and UFOs are controlling it. And ETs control time. They know where you're going to be. And I've got events that's happened to me. They know where you're going to be. They follow time. They follow implants. They follow DNA. And the story also goes with they follow Indians, American Indians or Native Americans. And they follow their DNA for some reason. I have Crow blood in me. So I don't know. And my family has seen things, and my mother has seen things. She's 91 years old now, and she's still, I talk to her about UFOs every once in a while. She's seen some things in her time. So it does follow the bloodline or the family lines, as they say. I can be a witness to that because it does happen. My brothers have seen UFOs. They've never been abducted like I have. But they come close to it. They're watching this, I guess. But yes, I had an event, my first real big abduction, in which I'll tell you about some of the things that you just said about them pulling things out of your mind, your memory, and just throw them out there too, for you to see. And maybe they're blocking that view of being an alien, and they have put a friend in there. I've had that happen to me, and I've had voices from a sister that I heard during one of my abductions. So they know how to read your mind. They can play your mind like a recorder. So that is true. What you just said is very true from my side of things. What I've seen. So I guess start off by saying that my event started when I was 14 years of age. Actually, and my best buddy, in which we still talk about this story. We walked up steps up to the road. We saw some lights in the neighborhood. It was a small neighborhood, and we smelt what we thought was sulfur. But that sulfur turned out to be ozone. As I got into more research and investigation, the sulfur from the bottom of the craft, it looked like one of these toy tops that you spin. It looked like that type of UFO, kind of like a little chubby UFO disc. And it had windows in it, and it had little antennas on top, and it had a couple of white lights on it, and that's what we saw. We followed it down the road. Him and I stood in this empty lot. This thing must have been only about 75 feet away from us, actually in my backyard. And we stood there, pinched each other to make sure it was real. And it was unbelievable being that age and seeing something like that. And him and I talked that story the same way. But where it stops, where his story and my story stops and starts, is I remember some things on board ship where I was putting on his shirt after I was on a metal table. And I was putting on his shirt, and it was too tight on me. And then, because I was a little bit bigger than my friend was. He was about a year younger than me. But I remember that part of it and coming out. And then, actually, just maybe, I don't know how long, as a kid, I didn't keep track of time. But after about 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to say a word, I hope it doesn't bother anybody, but I found my first implant in my scrotum. Is that okay to say, Gary?
That is fine, because you know what? I mean, implants, from talking to people that have been implanted, you'd be surprised. Whitney was in his ear. Tim Collin was in his arm. I had another one that was in her thigh. I mean, and another one was in their ankle. So, yeah, I mean, I believe they put implants in various parts of your body, and hopefully they